Hello and welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where today we'll be taking you through the top 10 Wonderkids that rejected the big time. Here we go. 10. Lars Elstrup. Kicking things off is Lars Elstrup, a Danish striker who was part of his nation's unexpected 1992 Euros triumph, and also at the centre of one of football's weirdest stories. Having played for Luton Town in the English top flight and for Feyenoord, he came to the realisation that the life of a footballer wasn't for him. In 1993, he quit his club Odense BK to join the Wild Goose religious commune on the Danish island of Funen. He claimed that they knew him better than he did himself and adopted the new name of Durando. Elstrup, or Durando, left the sect 9 years later in a cloud of controversy after exposing himself in public and slapping a young boy. He was fined the equivalent of £1,200 for the incident. As if things couldn't get any weirder, in 2001 Durando hit the headlines again for taking a in Trafalgar Square. Yes, you did hear me correctly. 9. John Bostock. Local boy Bostock became Crystal Palace's youngest ever first-team player against Watford in October 2007, aged just 15 years old. After just 4 appearances, Bostock moved to Spurs for £1 million, having turned down Chelsea. Palace chairman at the time, Simon Jordan, said Bostock had no understanding of the word loyalty. He even threatened to revoke Bostock and his stepfather's season tickets, which had already been purchased for the upcoming season. Big things were expected of the England under-17 captain in North London after he became their youngest ever player in a UEFA Cup match in 2008. However, he never made a league appearance for Spurs, went on loan to Brentford, Hull, Sheffield Wednesday, Swindon Town and Toronto FC, but was finally released 5 years later. He now plays for French League 2 club Lens. 8. Carlos Roa. Carlos Roa was the hero of Argentina's 1998 World Cup campaign. He didn't concede a single goal during the group stages and went on to make decisive saves from Paul Ince and David Batty in the second round penalty shootout against England. By 1999 there was interest from Manchester United, who were keen to replace the outgoing Schmeichel, and Arsenal. But Roa had far more important things in his mind than playing at 2 of the biggest clubs in the world and securing his financial future. The forthcoming end of the world. He was a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church who believed that the apocalypse would come in the year 2000, and anyone who didn't have a close spiritual connection with God would perish. Roa retreated to a desolate ranch in his native Argentina and waited for the day of reckoning. When that day didn't arrive, he re-emerged to play for Albacete and Olimpo, but had well and truly spurned his chance at the big time. 7. Michael Johnson. Manchester City's Michael Johnson, who represented England from under-16 to under-21, never fulfilled his potential due to a succession of injuries and off-the-pitch issues. The industrious central midfielder made a strong start to the 2006-07 season, earmarking him out as a future Manchester City captain. However, after a string of first-team games, Johnson was struck down by an abdominal injury, which ruled him out for the rest of the season. A recurrence of this problem, coupled with a nasty knee injury, meant Johnson could only play 37 games for Man City between 2006 and 2012. 3 drink driving offences between February and June 2012 led to Johnson's release from the club. He has subsequently admitted that he's been receiving treatment for many years for mental health problems. Johnson clearly wasn't cut out for a football career at the highest level and is now an estate agent in his local town of Urmston. 6. Koke. Koke has emerged over the last 5 years to become one of the best midfielders of his generation. Still only 25, Koke has made a remarkable 227 appearances for Atletico Madrid's first team. To put that in context, Isco and Coutinho, who are all born within a year of Koke, have made 208 and 205 club appearances respectively. Koke had a stellar 2013-14 season when he helped the Rojiblancos win La Liga and reach the Champions League final. He played 36 league games that season, scoring 6 and assisting 13. That summer, Koke's imperious form attracted the interest of Barcelona. Xavi had already been on the charm offensive, calling Koke an extraordinary footballer who will be the orchestrator of Spain's midfield for the next 10 years. Unlike the Chelsea-bound Diego Costa and Felipe Luis, Koke rejected the move away, claiming Madrid was his home and saying he couldn't leave at the best time in Atletico's history. However, despite reaching another Champions League final in 2016, Atletico haven't won a trophy since that La Liga triumph. 5. Sebastian Diesler. At the turn of the millennium, Diesler was hailed as the young saviour of German football. He was described by none other than Franz Beckenbauer as physically and technically the best in Germany. In 1998, Diesler had been thrust into the midst of a relegation battle with Borussia Mönchengladbach and had excelled despite his side ultimately going down. A scramble for his signature followed, and Hertha Berlin, who were at the time in the Champions League, won out. Despite occasional injury problems in Berlin, Diesler then moved to Bayern Munich, who saw him as the ideal replacement for outgoing legend Stefan Effenberg. However, numerous career-threatening injuries limited Diesler to just 62 Bundesliga appearances in 4.5 years in Bavaria. These took their toll on his mental state, and Diesler admitted in 2003 that he was suffering with depression, aged just 23. Although he tried to launch numerous comebacks, more injuries, exhaustion, and relapses in his mental well-being forced Diesler to retire aged just 27. 4. Curtis Woodhouse. The career of Curtis Woodhouse started brightly as the Sheffield United midfielder won 4 caps for the England under-21 side. However, a £1 million move to Birmingham turned sour, and Woodhouse began to drift through the lower leagues of English football. At the end of the 2005-06 season, whilst playing for Grimsby, Woodhouse retired, claiming he had fallen out of love with the game. Perhaps the truth was that he had in fact fallen in love with another sport, as Woodhouse swapped his football career to become a professional boxer. The former central midfielder fought at light welterweight, and his professional record stands at a very impressive 29 fights, 22 wins, 13 of which by knockout, and only 7 defeats. Arguably a far better boxer than a footballer, he retired from the ring in February 2014 after beating defending champion Darren Hamilton on a split decision to win the British light welterweight title. 3. David Luiz. David Luiz was often subject to ridicule during his first spell at Chelsea. A supremely talented footballer, his perceived lack of concentration led to Gary Neville saying the centre-back played like he was being controlled by a 10-year-old on a PlayStation. Around this time, Barcelona made 2 bids for the Brazilian. However, he decided PSG would better suit his career, and probably his pockets too. However, Luiz's move to Paris for a then world record fee for a defender of €56 million in June 2014 has been vindicated. He formed an incredible defensive partnership with countryman Thiago Silva, which helped PSG to 2 straight domestic trebles. During 2015-16, PSG only conceded 19 goals in Liga and won the title by 31 points. Since his return to Chelsea, he has added a Premier League medal to his collection. His 2014 decision to turn down the most successful club of this century has been justified. 2. Peter Knowles. Peter Knowles rose to stardom as a striker for Wolves, scoring 101 goals in just 174 appearances. He won 4 caps for England's under-23 side between 1966 and 1968, and was tipped to become a full international. However, during the summer of 1969, he used time off from Wolves to travel to America and represent Kansas City in a promotional league. He returned to Wolves with more than his full-time employers had bargained for. While in Kansas, Knowles had become a Jehovah's Witness. At the start of the following season, he said, "I need more time to learn about the Bible and may give up on football." The 8th game of the season was a 3-3 draw with Forest and was the last game Knowles ever played. Although Wolves continued to register Knowles for a further 12 years in the vain hopes of a comeback, Knowles was done, giving up the game at just 24. 1. Neil Lamptey. Labelled the African Pele in his youth, Lamptey's story is not so much of a wonder kid rejecting the big time, but being denied access to it through exploitation and tragedy. Lamptey had grown up in an environment of parental neglect and abuse and found solace in football. After starring for Ghana's under-16 side in a youth tournament, he was snapped up by Anderlecht. Such was his talent, Anderlecht successfully altered the Belgian Pro League rules to allow Lamptey to play professionally at just 16. After 9 goals in 30 appearances over 2 seasons, a loan move to PSV followed. Lamptey, who had very poor communication skills, was then exploited by an Italian agent called Antonio Caliento, who convinced him to sign an exclusive deal that gave him Lamptey's registration rights rather than his club. Tragically, Caliendo then forced Lamptey to move as often as possible for the highest fee. Lamptey played for Villa and Coventry before spells in Italy, Argentina, Portugal, Germany, China, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and back home in Ghana. I hope you enjoyed that video. What did you think though? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed that, why not check out Stat Wars or Continental Club? And as ever people, don't forget to like and subscribe.